We are an independent international intelligence agency operating at the highest level of discretion.
When I was a kid, my dad used to have this like old 35mm projector, and we had all, well not all, but we had a lot of the Republic serials and things, you know, things like, you know, the sort of Flash Gordons or Commando Cody and Flash Gordon and everything. So I grew up with a real love of that, and I must have been the only kid in my housing estate in Scotland that was really into this stuff, and BBC Two were showing a lot of that stuff at the time too. So I grew up really loving like 1930s and 1940s like serials, you know. So I wanted to do a comic book that was a homage to that stuff. So what I did was I took the archetype, that space hero, you know, the John Carter, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon style space hero, and aged him up, you know. So I liked the idea of this guy had been off doing these amazing things when he was in his 20s. He had these amazing adventures like Buster Crab, but then when he came back to Earth there was no evidence that he'd done anything, you know. So the idea was that he comes back and has to live a normal life. So he just comes home and he becomes a mechanic and gets married and has kids, and then he doesn't tell people about it anymore because he's kind of embarrassed because nobody believes him. And then his wife dies and his kids move out the house and all this kind of thing, and he's a 63-year-old guy. And then one of those old sparkly rocket ships lands in the garden again and says, look, you saved us 40 years ago, or you come back and save us again, there's a new problem. And he has to squeeze himself into his old spacesuit kind of thing and go back for one last adventure. So it's kind of Unforgiven meets Flash Gordon, really, you know. Visually we based him on Liam Neeson to some extent, because Liam's about that age, he's in good shape, he's an older guy but he can still do action realistically, you know.
See, I wrote down Kirk Douglas. He looked obviously
with the chin and everything.
Yeah, obviously Kirk's a little bit too old.
I don't know. You could
what about
get him in the gym for a few weeks and let's see what happens. You know?
Michael Douglas is someone like.
Do you know, that's not a bad idea. I do feel the whole point of this character though is that he almost should be sort of like almost impotent. He should be sort of like an older man who's past his best, and you're going to be shocked whenever you see him pick up a gun again and be amazing.
What about Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell's a great idea. He was somebody that had been mentioned early on as well, you know. I haven't seen what he looks like now, but I love him. I mean, he's been in half a dozen of my favourite films, you know, so yeah, that's a great idea. You know, Arnie's somebody who people talked about as well, because the whole idea is that someone who was a sci-fi hero a generation ago, and Arnie was the sci-fi hero a generation ago, but I think it needs to be somebody more all-American. I think there's got to be like a Buzz Lightyear vibe to him, sort of, you know, somebody who feels almost like an astronaut or something, you know. So that's where maybe Neeson wouldn't be quite correct, because Neeson's an Irish guy, obviously.
Mankind is the virus, and I'm the cure.
Sounds like a lot of people are going to die.
Do I look like I give them?